Hello and welcome to the 30th ever episode of the Unsigned Manager Podcast. Big 3-0. If this podcast was an adult, it would have a mortgage and be ready to rethink all its life decisions and be wearing sketches unironically. And shout out to all the big adult stuff. Podcast is 30 weeks old now. My name is Big Squid Siji Kolawole, and each week I take a look at football's biggest headlines, stories, events from both the past and the present to really break down what's been going on in the game. Now, lately, I've been arguing with about 90% of the people I know about Trent Alexander-Arnold, and I'm sick of this guy. I don't really want to say his name again. He's become the Marmite of football fans lately. Either you love him for his attacking brilliance from fullback, or you have pure disgust for the fact that he's not the greatest defender to have ever lived, and sometimes people get past him. And in my opinion, it doesn't really matter anyway because the guy's not a defender. But let's get into the episode. Trent is the greatest player to ever grace the right back position. The end. Or, Trent is the worst defender I have ever seen, and it's like watching a string trying to hold back an elephant. This is what it sounds like to be on football Twitter, watching the modern day football fan argue with the rest of the world. He's 23 years old, has a Premier League title, was a part of one of the greatest squads in league history, a Champions League medal, been a part of 2 Champions League finals, and consistently been one of the top creators in the league. This is a guy that defended Ronaldo for 90 minutes in a Champions League final and pretty much kept him quiet. He has grown in the club, been there since he was 6 years old, captained both the under-16s and the under-18s, and become a first-team standout player, all before he was 21. He's probably valued at £1 billion now, and even that's not enough, because there are very, very, very few players who can replicate his game, if any. When Liverpool's number 66, and that annoys me so much because what a stupid number, but that's a personal problem, is put into every comparative conversation possible, it normally pulls up one of 4 names. 1, Chelsea's right wing back Reece James, who started the season hotter than hell, scoring, assisting, dominating games from fullback, creativity, serious stuff. Injury held him back. Joao Cancelo, who I've literally watched in games and just not had a Solomon clue what position he's playing in, because he can control the pace of an entire game in every position on the pitch. One of those real, could probably play in every position on the pitch players. Then there's Dani Alves, who is probably the originator for the marauding, attacking, creative fullback of the modern post-2000 era. The inspiration for the modern wing-back, so creative, linked up with Messi 24/7. If he was in his peak in this era, then his numbers, Lord help us. And then the old heads, you can never leave out the old heads, and I say that respectfully and patronisingly. You guys are annoying sometimes. And they've thrown their hat in the ring to announce Cafu as their representative for the top-level attacking fullback. Now, Trent isn't the best defender, I have to admit. And whenever he has a bad defensive performance, especially against Vinicius Jr. in the Champions League last season, that sticks in my mind, is bad and can't really defend him. But I don't really think that's a cause for concern, because when we're all comparing players today, we aren't grading on the same curve or judging players by the same grade. Most days I would break out FBref and transfer marked and all that and compare all the numbers and stats and show you my workings out to see who I prefer at right back. I'd weigh up all the attacking numbers versus all the defensive numbers versus all the transition numbers and see who's best suited. But who cares? Who cares? I think that right back should play a certain way, you think they should play another way, and we're both wrong. Right backs don't play a certain way. There's not a cut and paste style to playing the position. Football positions were just created as a way to track formations so novices could follow the game, which makes sense. That's why in old school days, all players were numbered 1 to 11, just so the fans could see where they were playing on the pitch. It doesn't actually matter who is playing where. But we've taken it too far and decided all strikers should score 30 goals a season. All central midfielders should be strong, combative leaders like Keane and Vieira. All goalkeepers should be tall and wild and terrifying like Schmeichel. But positions don't matter. Actual football positions do not matter. What matters is making sure every role on the pitch is covered. It doesn't matter if you're playing 11 right backs all over the pitch. What actually matters is, do you have a goal scorer? do you have a creator, a destroyer, a distributor across the pitch? In all those positions is someone filling one of these roles. Roles are relevant. And to try and emphasize this point, I'm going to do what I've been thinking about doing for weeks on weeks, is build an 11 of players whose playing style doesn't traditionally match the position they play in the team. And it's not going to just be a team of people who are playing in their secondary position or playing out of position, like Aubameyang playing on the wing instead of playing up front. Or someone playing in their secondary position like Pavard at Bayern Munich playing a centre-back. I mean someone whose style traditionally lends them to play in a different position, but they have adapted to play in another one while maintaining their style. There's only one player in the team I had to make a slight exception for. It's a bit dicey, but I'll let you know when I get there. But other than that, I've managed to make an 11 of players, oh Lord, this team, who play in a different way to the position that they play in traditionally. Now, I've gone for a 3-1-4-2. That's the only way I could fit everyone in. If you don't like this team, argue with your neighbour. I don't want to hear it. Alright, let's start with goalkeepers now. Don't kill me for my age. But my idea of a goalkeeper traditionally was Petr Cech. The ultimate 6'5" shot stopper, penalty box commander, big, long, giant throw kind of guy. The guy that he could stand on his line and you can't really do anything about it. If you shoot, he's going to save it. He's got massive arm. He's a problem. Now, obviously, on things like Premier League years, you see Schmeichel and Seaman and Tim Flowers and those kind of keepers. But for me, Petr Cech was the guy. That was the guy when I was growing up. He was the number one. You couldn't displace him. That was the best keeper of the era. But of all those guys, going back to Schmeichel and that up to Cech, no one had any technique. Technical footwork was not strong. It wasn't important. In the old eras, your goalkeeper would never be a viable creator for the team. He wouldn't be a passer. You wouldn't kick the ball back to them only in case you wanted it to go long. They would never start an attack. They would never actively be aiming for people. They'd just be aiming for areas of the pitch. Nowadays, we see time after time goalkeepers be heavily involved in build-up play, being able to quickly and accurately move the ball downfield to create goal-scoring opportunities. So the number one keeper in my team has to be Ederson. I don't think there's really been anyone close. A season on season for Manchester City, the guy's getting assists. He's making key passes. He has managed to allow Man City to be a team that is literally an attacking threat 1 through 11. That I find is the only people close to him is Alisson. For that skill is Alisson. I don't think anyone else is even close. Ederson can spring an attack from his goal line and put a Phil Foden or Raheem Sterling or a Gundogan through 1v1 and cause problems. His passing range is pretty much undeniable. I don't think there's anyone close. Your goalkeeper can be a major creator in your attack. So in goal, I'm going for Ederson. Plays different to his traditional position. And he can do the other stuff as well. But his passing range just takes him to a different level. Now, one of my defenders is the guy that influence his team. This is Trent. Now, obviously, he's been an inspiration, so you don't have to go too much into him, but he's the best creator from a defender I've ever seen. Never envisioned anything like it. It's insanity. This is a fullback who can get 10 or 15 assists a season, not thinking about it. I'd be surprised if he gets under 10. He can be an attacking menace up the right flank, constantly got energy, constantly creating problems by switching the play to pull the defence apart. When you think about old school right backs, players like Gary Neville, Lee Dixon, not even old school, but Branislav Ivanovic, things you counted on them for was have energy up the flank. Trent's got that. To be competent 1v1, Trent's got that. And to be able to deliver a ball, Trent's got that. What you didn't account for was 10 or 15 assists a season, or be able to step into midfield and play passes, or start attacks from fullback, switching from one fullback to the other. Or be a free kick threat, or be a corner threat. He's elevated the position. He's taken it from you aren't silly in attack to you are a specialist in attack. Players like him, players like Reece James, the other defender in this team, Joao Cancelo, they've taken a position from you are a competent attacker to now you are a serious attacker who can also defend. I don't think comparing Trent to right backs even makes sense. I think it's stupid. you should be comparing Trent to players like De Bruyne or Odegaard or Bruno Fernandes, because that's what he does. His main role in the team is as a creator. He just happens to do it from right back. What is the point of comparing him to Nathaniel Klein? They don't serve the same purpose on the pitch. There's no point. Like I just said, the guy there, Joao Cancelo, one of the other defenders in this team. I really, honestly, I'm not sure if I've ever seen Philip Lahm, Thomas Muller, maybe Dani Alves, James Milner. Those are the only players who I've seen close to Cancelo who I really think could cover every position on the pitch. We've all seen players like Trent and Alves and Achraf Hakimi own the entire right flank of the pitch, but Cancelo can honestly be effective from anywhere. He's an above average defender, solid 1v1, but the days of a fullback stopping the opposition winger and occasionally getting up for a cross, Cancelo's laughing at that. The guy's mind is attack first, defend second, but not in a bad way, not in like a lazy defensive way, but it's how can I take this situation and do something effective with it, getting the ball up the pitch, or driving, or getting into pockets, or even if he needs to, playing the number 10 spot. The best way I think to think about this exercise is to think if a player from the 70s or 80s was transported into the modern era, what would make them go, what the hell is that? And seeing your right-footed left back drive the ball into the attacking midfield area and shoot from distance. Seeing your left back play on the opposite side, play 1-2s with your 9 and go through 1v1. If you're someone like Ray Wilson from the 66 World Cup winning team, you would think, what on earth is happening here? And the best thing I think about Joao Cancelo, the memory that I will always have is there was a game where Manchester City were playing Arsenal at the Emirates 2 seasons ago. 2 seasons ago, yeah. Manchester City lined up in a 3-1-4-2, I believe. But for the entire game, for the whole 90 minutes, me, everyone I was watching the game with, the commentators, Twitter, no one knew where Joao Cancelo was playing. We couldn't work it out. Pep had devised some system where Cancelo was like the free man. You know when you used to play football as a kid and there'd be a guy who was a magic man and he'd go in a different colour bib but he could play on either team, so he kind of just floated around. That's what Cancelo was doing in Premier League games. Nobody could work out what position he was playing in. And he tore Arsenal to bits solo because they didn't know how to defend him. And you can only do that if your defender has a level of ability that's up against or higher than the traditional average. So shout out to Joao Cancelo. He's the second defender in this team. The third defender, the centre-back of this team. Now this is an older shout because I can't really imagine anyone would be thinking about this guy normally, but when you think about this kind of style of player, no one suits it more. I was torn between him and Frank Rijkaard. What a name, what a player. Because Rijkaard was another future style player because of his ability to carry the ball forward, and start attacks from defence, and his tactical flexibility. He could play in almost every position on the pitch. But when it comes to breaking the mould of a centre-back, anyone really come close to Ronald Koeman? From centre-back, managed to be a strong attacking influence, constantly scoring, constantly assisting. During his playing days in the 80s and 90s, what were defenders' best assets? Their physicality, ability to head the ball away. Maybe they'd be useful from corners, they'd get stuck into challenge, they'd be loud and aggressive, they might be a captain. Ronald Koeman, composed on the ball, earlier than normal. Could play as a sweeper because of his vision and his ability on the ball. Guy could score goals, he had a long range ping, he could shoot from distance. Ronald Koeman, by the way, just a stat for you, is Barcelona's top scoring defender ever with 90 goals as a centre-back in La Liga. Free kicks, penalties, long distance. The guy is called the king of free kicks. Barcelona's second highest free kick scorer after Messi. 26 free kicks he scored for the club. 46 penalties, but the guy wasn't just that. If you were defending deep against Barcelona and Ronald Koeman had the ball from 30 yards out, you were in trouble. It's the same with De Bruyne today. It's the same with Gerrard in his heyday. You had a problem if Koeman was picking up the ball from distance. What centre-backs were doing that then? He took the position and he added something different to it that wasn't traditional, that made him such a problem. Not really think there's anyone close. So right now I've got Ederson in goal, Trent at right centre-back, Joao Cancelo at left centre-back, Ronald Koeman in the middle. Now I'm going forward with the team. Let's start on the left wing. So we're playing 3-4-1-2. So let's start at left midfield, left wing. Wingers, when I was watching Match of the Day, when Match of the Day was the greatest thing in the world, when I was like 8 or 9, fun wingers in the league were players like Ashley Young, baller. If you don't know about young Ashley Young, then go and do your research, baller. Or someone like Aaron Lennon, very direct. Stephen Pienaar, underrated baller there. But Ji-Sung Park was different. Ji-Sung Park was at PSV Eindhoven, good attacking player, very creative. Came to Manchester United and decided to be a defensive winger. I'm not even going to try and count the guy. I'm not even going to try and take into account the fact that he was doing jobs on people like Pirlo and Xavi in Champions League games at defensive midfield or number 10 or whatever. I'm just going to try and think about the guy that was a winger whose normal job is to get to the byline and deliver, create, take fullbacks 1v1, win penalties, win free kicks, have a little bit of flair and flash. No, Ji-Sung Park said, I am a defensive winger, so if you have a good right back or winger, put me on that wing and I'm going to shut him down. That's not normal. That's changing the position. Ji-Sung Park has the mind of a fullback or a defensive midfield player. He just happens to be able to play on the wing. He just happens to play there. This whole difference in position thing and role doesn't just happen attacking, it happens defensive as well. You had a shutdown, a destroyer, but you could just happen to play him on the wing. Ji-Sung Park, without him, them Manchester United teams are nowhere near as effective they are. He gave them a different type of tactical flexibility they didn't normally have, which really helped in Champions League games. You can go away to Milan, have Pirlo, who's a ball distributor, and go, nah, we're going to put Ji-Sung Park on him. You can have Xavi in Champions League semi-finals and go, nah, let's put Ji-Sung Park on him. Xabi Alonso in the league, Steven Gerrard in the league. If you had any good winger in the league, you could put Ji-Sung Park on them. Guy could do that in any position, which is normal. There's players that can do that, but there's not many players who do that from the wing. There's not many players who you would line up Messi against in a Champions League final. Ji-Sung Park is the left winger of this team. Right now, it doesn't really matter if I've got Joao Cancelo going or Trent going or Koeman pinging it from 30 yards because I've got Ji-Sung Park there. You can't get past him. Next, in the middle of my two central midfield players, I'm playing two centre midfielders and a 10. No, I'm playing one centre midfielder and two 10s. We'll get back to that. The centre midfielder is Adel Taarabt. Now, 2011, 2012, Adel Taarabt. Him, Hatem Ben Arfa were the two most fun players in the Premier League. There's no one even close. Don't even argue about it. If you don't know about Taarabt, go and check the YouTube highlights. But if you're my age, you know about this guy. Guy had flair coming out of his ears. You see what Dimitri Payet did? That is childish compared to what Taarabt was doing in the league. Guy's a 5-star skiller in real life. Both-footed, attacking menace, pick up the ball on the edge of the box, drift past one, drift past two, come inside, play 1-2s. You would not want to defend him 1v1. He goes to Benfica and he takes all that same skill set and he puts it in defensive midfield. So everything that Taarabt can do in attacking midfield, he can do that from defensive midfield now. So he can win the ball back, he can distribute from deep, he can be solid, he can shadow your back four, and if he wants to, he can drive the ball through the middle of the pitch and you can't stop him. Try and stop him. You're going to foul him 100 times a game. If he wants to pick up the ball, find your winger, go forward, overlap past your 9 and then go through 1v1, you can't stop him. That's how those are apt. It just so happens that he can do his defensive midfield job as well. He can take the position at defensive midfield add his other skill set to it and elevate the position. Different level. Adel Tarapt's the central midfield player on my team. On the right-hand side, I talk about this guy every week. I'm sick. Him and Trent, they're banned. For the next 3 weeks, I'm not talking about them. I don't care if they both go to space. I don't care if they both win the Ballon d'Or. I'm not saying their name. But Mohamed Salah has to be the right winger in this team. It goes again to traditionally, what are wingers? If you took someone from the 70s and 80s now and put them in today's game, they would look at Mohamed Salah and go, what the hell is that? This is a right winger who cuts in on his left-hand side, who scores goals like a 9, creates like a 10, beats you 1v1, constantly has a good relationship with his fullback, which means that he can come inside because the fullback can go outside because now he's a threat from the inside and the outside, uses his pace, uses his strength. You cannot stop Mohamed Salah. Traditionally, old school, you'd have wingers like, inverted wingers aren't a new thing. There's players like David Ginola or Faustino Asprilla who could play on the left, or Robert Pires who could play on the left, but these are still players whose job was creating. Even someone like my favourite Iron Robin, who was probably the best example of an inverted winger, or Riyad Mahrez, the number one job is still to create. Yeah, they're more effective at taking chances than others, but Mahrez isn't picking up the ball thinking, I'm going to finish this. Mahrez is picking up the ball thinking, I'm going to find someone, and if not, I can finish it. Salah's thinking, I can finish. Mohamed Salah is a striker. He just so happens to play on the wing. He just so happens that he plays out wide. He's got the mind. His mind and Shearer's mind is the same. His mind and Van Nistelrooy's mind is the same. They're making the same decisions. It just so happens that one of them plays on the wing. And it just so happens that if Van Nistelrooy couldn't score, he'd shoot anyway. If Salah doesn't score, he can play like a 10 and find Mane or find Jota or find whoever on the pitch. I don't think there's any better example than a player who plays different to his traditional role than Mohamed Salah, because the guy is a striker playing on the wing. Different level. Mohamed Salah is a winger in this team. Now, for me, the two most fun players in this team, I'm putting them both in attacking midfield. So wait, hold on, let me go through the team again. Ederson in goal, Trent at right back, Koeman, Joao Cancelo, that's my back three. Across my three in midfield, Ji-sung Park on the left-hand side, Adel Taarabt in the middle, Mohamed Salah on the right-hand side. Then I'm playing 2 number 10s and 2 9s. My 2 number 10s, first one, Marouane Fellaini. If you know about football in the mid-2010s, Marouane Fellaini he's a comedy act. Marouane Fellaini is a 6'5" attacking midfielder. Just to make sure you're clear on that, Marouane Fellaini is a 6'5" attacking midfielder. Think about number 10s. Gianfranco Zola, Dennis Bergkamp, Iniesta, David Silva, Kevin De Bruyne, Mesut Ozil. You wouldn't say that they're big attacking threats, right? Like aerial threats. You would never cross the ball into David Silva and think that's a problem right there. You would never go long to Mesut Ozil and think he might pin your centre-backs, lay it off to your 10, lay it off to your 9, spin around the corner and go and finish 1v1. You would never have player number 10 who wasn't that creative, but it didn't really matter because you had a creative 9 in someone like a Cahill or a Lukaku, or you'd have wingers come in and create instead so that your number 10 could really be your number 9, but he's also defensively smart enough to cover the defensive midfield player. You never really have that, right? Like the closest you would get to that, if you can get to anything, is Dele Alli for that one season. But Dele Alli's 6 foot. He's not 6'5". He's not an actual target man. Everton were playing a number 10 as target man. So when you see Leon Osman or Seamus Coleman, Sylvain Distan, Phil Jagielka picking up the ball, Tim Howard, shout out to Tim Howard, picking up the ball and getting it out of their feet, they're not going into the 9. Who cares about that? They're going into the target man. They're going into their focal point. They're attacking aerial threat. When Nikita Jelavic is peeling off centre-backs, He's got space and time to do that because the centre-backs are worried about Fellaini. When have you ever seen that before? When have you ever seen a number 9 be able to drive off and peel off defenders? Because it doesn't matter, because everyone's worried about their 10 picking up the ball off his chest, not off his feet. He's playing the role differently to the position. He's playing a creative hub position. He's doing it like a battering ram 9. He's doing it like a Nikola Zigic, or shout out old school target man. Can I think of old school target man? I don't know, there'll be someone. Thing. Oh, what's that guy's name? Oh, that's gonna annoy me. I'm thinking of a target man in my head. Not Duncan Ferguson. I'm thinking of an old school target man for Arsenal, but I can't think of him. Anyway, that's what Marouane Fellaini's doing, but he's doing it from the number 10 spot. So you can still feel more creativity around him. And your 9 can be a little bit tricky, can play in different ways and doesn't have to be such a focal point, because Fellaini's going to have the gravity to bring everyone else into him. And he's 6'5", and he's got touch in his chest like Adebayor. Can't go close to him. The second number 10 on my position is a different style to Fellaini. And this is the guy in my team that's the caveat. This is the one I've had to bend the rules for. And that's Moussa Dembele from Tottenham. Now, I said at the beginning of this team that it wouldn't be people who are playing in a secondary position. So my bad. But Moussa Dembele had games at Tottenham, and there was a particular season, I think it's 15-16 or 16-17. I got the numbers in my research, but I think 15-16, where Moussa Dembele almost exclusively played the season as an advanced 8 or an attacking midfield player, especially in big games, because of his defensive work rate. Pochettino put a battering ram at number 10 so that the defensive midfield player had to deal with Moussa Dembele all game, not Christian Eriksen. Christian Eriksen is a player that works hard, but he's not the physicality of Moussa Dembele. So they were putting someone in a position, they were putting a destroyer in a creator's position. But it doesn't really matter, because positions don't matter. What matters is have you got people on the pitch filling in that role. So if you can shift Eriksen out to the wing, you can give a defensive midfield player a long game, because Moussa Dembele is a physical freak. I've been watching Dembele highlights for like the last 3 or 4 days as I've been writing this episode. Honestly, the guy is different level. So strong, so agile for a big man. I think that's the thing that people miss. Players like Yaya Toure and Paul Pogba and Patrick Vieira are so effective, not just because they're big, it's because they married the size with agility and balance, and Moussa Dembele had that. Remember that job that Dele Alli did on Jorginho when Jorginho first came to Tottenham? No, Jorginho first came to Chelsea, and Dele Alli man-marked him out of an entire game. That's what Moussa Dembele was doing to people, but he was doing it with a different type of athleticism, a different type of physicality. And the thing we all know about Dembele, he's so effective with the ball at his feet that when he does win it off, the defensive midfielder can't get it back from him. He can start attacks from there. He can play in forwards. He can be effective. He can be a creator as secondary, but first he can be a destroyer at number 10. I've never really seen many managers do it like that since. The closest tactical thing I can think of to something similar to that is Allegri playing Mario Mandzukic on the left wing for Juventus, because he was 6'4". So that way Pirlo could roll the ball out of his feet. Pirlo or Bonucci, especially because he passed from the right hand side, can spin the ball into Mandzukic, and Mandzukic was much bigger than normal fullback, so he could bring the ball down and create from the left hand side. And if the ball got delivered into the far post, if you've got a fullback marking Mandzukic, that's a guaranteed goal. That's the closest thing I've seen a manager do, but I never really see managers do it defensively. That's what I respected about Dembele. He was going forward to play in a more creative position, but being able to be so defensively resolute to stop the other team ball playing. That's different level. That's why I've got Dembele there. So right now I've got Fellaini being my target man from 10 and Dembele being my destroyer from number 10. This team is mean. So now I've got 2 left. to the money position, how am I gonna... In my team, and I'm getting my goals mostly from Mohamed Salah. Fellaini's chipping in with a couple. Dembele might chip in with a couple. Tarap's a couple screamers. Ronald Koeman, definite screamers. Free kicks, penalties. Koeman and Trent are arguing over them. Joao Cancelo is popping up here all around, but it doesn't really matter because Ji-sung Park is covering him. So I need 2 forwards. I don't necessarily need goal scorers right now. What I need is people who are going to work hard for me off the ball and people who can do other things than traditional number 9 stuff. So, first choice, definite choice, Joe Linton. At Newcastle right now, I am telling you, I have been arguing about this guy since he joined from Hoffenheim. Joe Linton is a good football player. He's just big. And this is what managers do, and this is what managers did with Lukaku. They do it with a bunch of players. Just because you're big does not mean you're a target man. Sebastian Haller was not a target man. Joe Linton was not a target man. Finally, people are playing him not as a target man, but as a bit more of a creator, a bit more someone that's going to work hard and bustle around your midfield and move the ball forward from midfield to attack and link up with your 9. Now look at him. Last couple of games, Joe Linton's been much more effective because finally, it's clicked for everyone at Newcastle. Oh wait, we shouldn't just lump the ball up to him. Joe Linton can create. He was great at a 2 at Hoffenheim. He's effective with the ball at his feet. He's big and he's strong. But it's more his mind that leads his game, not his physique. Right now, if I play Joe Linton up front, I've got people pressing. I've got people pressing the opposition defence. I've got people hassling the defensive midfield players. When we do win it, he's happy to combine with the other 2 players. And if he's got attacking runners in front of him, like he will with Salah, Joe Linton's going to be fine to create with them. I think it was harder for him when he was at Newcastle playing off the wing. Playing off the wing or being the focal point of the attack, because then he couldn't really link with players running ahead of him. Like while he's facing forwards. But you drop him a little bit deeper and now, I can see St. Maximin. I can see Wilson. I can see... Who else do Newcastle play in attack? Anyway, he's much more effective like that. So Joe Linton's my 9 because in the old school days, in Duncan Ferguson days, who is this target man that I'm thinking of that I can't think of? Guy was a battering ram. Mark Hughes is not who I'm thinking of, but up there. In those days, Joe Linton would have been a 9 and he would have got 7 goals a season because he wouldn't have been as good as what he was meant to be doing. And he would have got laughed out because someone like Duncan Ferguson would have elbowed him in his face. But now, you can see that he's not a 9 and he plays his position differently and much more effective. And then the last man in the team, the ultimate space invader, the random guy, you don't know. He plays football his own way, Thomas Muller, not really close. Guy's a striker, he doesn't play as a striker. Guy's a 10, doesn't play as a 10. The guy's a winger, doesn't play as a winger. Thomas Muller plays like he wants to. It's a different type of... It's a different type of movement to normal positions when Thomas Muller's playing. He hasn't so much done it since Robert Lewandowski's been there. In the seasons before Lewandowski joined at Bayern Munich, Thomas Muller was the secondary 9 behind Mario Gomez, or he'd be the 9. Between him and Mandzukic and Gomez. And it's been less like that since obviously Lewandowski's been there, because Lewandowski's probably the best striker of this generation. Thomas Muller doesn't do anything normally. Nothing. Doesn't create normally, even though he's got ridiculous assist numbers. He doesn't do classic peel off someone, drop into the 10 spot, turn round the corner and find a striker or find an oncoming winger. He doesn't do, I'll drift into the pocket between the defensive midfielder and the centre back and play a cute little pass around the corner and see. He doesn't do that. He's like battering ram. I've charged into the box and now I can lay it off to someone. Like as I'm falling over because I've drawn 7 people into me. He's the ideal person you want on your team, but he plays 9. I could have put Firmino in this team as well. It's Firmino and Muller are the two for me, but I prefer Muller as a player. Firmino does it a lot cuter, a lot tidier, but I don't know what Thomas Muller is. Because I feel like I can't really call him an attacking midfield player. That doesn't feel right. That doesn't feel like that marries with the traditional style of an attacking midfield player, the traditional way attacking midfield players play. He used to play on the wing for Bayern Munich, and you would never have called him a winger. Not fast, not tricky 1v1. You wouldn't say he's ghosting past players. When Thomas Muller's got you 1v1, he's going to pass the ball back to Philipp Lahm. He doesn't want to take anyone on 1v1, but effective. When he plays at number 9, he's not a big physical presence. He's wiry. He's built like a coat hanger. He's not ghosting him behind to finish. But he's scoring goals. Thomas Muller's a football weirdo, and that's why I put him up front, because I don't know what he is, to be honest, and that's that. The people who are close to getting on this team, I think I said them before. Firmino was very close. Christopher Nkunku was close, because Nkunku has got the ability of, he hasn't got the ability of a 9, but he has the stats and the records of a 9. He just does it from the middle of the park or from an advanced position in number 10. Someone like a Sebastian Haller when he was at West Ham, or a Yusuf Poulsen could have probably made this team up front. But this is my team to show that there are players who are effective at the highest level, because none of these players I've picked are Championship or very lower level or from poor leagues. These are top 5 league, Champions League, some of them Champions League winning players who show that positions don't matter. What matters is the role you play on the pitch. It doesn't matter if you have Thomas Muller up front, because you're not thinking, Thomas has got to get us a couple. What you're thinking is, I need goal scorers from wide, like a Sane this season, or like a Gnabry, if I'm going to play Muller up front, because Muller can be the main creator in my team. If your central midfield players aren't really a threat from deep or aren't the greatest passers, it's fine, because Ronald Koeman or Trent Alexander-Arnold can fill that void for you. If your number 9 is someone like a Muller, then Mohamed Salah is the best person you can have on your wing, because the both of them have switched roles, but they just can play in their normal position. Ji-Sung Park can shut down a winger. He doesn't need to be creative and amazing going forward and be a tricky player like an Alexis Sanchez. Doesn't need to do that. He can shut down someone like a Trent, or there is no one in football I can think of who would be better to play against someone like Trent than Ji-Sung Park. That would have been a matchup I wanted to see. It's just bad that their eras cross time. But yeah, the long story, less long. Positions in football irrelevant. Roles relevant. And that's how you can get teams like this. Anyway, that's up for this episode. Big episode 30. I'm actually gassed I've got to 30 episodes. Honestly, I think when I first started, I did a little bit of research and showed that most podcasts only ever put out 6 episodes max. And then after a while, the person just can't be bothered to do it. And yeah, I had a point where I had a couple of weeks off because I was busy doing other things, but mostly it was week after week after week, and my bad for the quality. And now I've got a little bit more of an upgrade in here, so it's a bit nicer and the audio should be a bit tidier. But episode 30, rolling on to episode 300 soon. Next week, I'm not really sure what the episode will be about. I'll see if I can do a little bit of research. I like doing fun teams like this, or episodes with a theme, so I might think of something. But I'll see you guys next week. Peace.